Let's imagine an artist, one that works for thousands, even millions of years. And its tools? Nothing but water and wind. Well, that artist is the ocean, and its canvas is the very edge of our world, the coastline.
I mean, have you ever really stopped and thought about it? You're standing on a shore, and you wonder, why is this coast a dramatic, jagged cliff, while another one is just a gentle, sandy slope? What's the force behind it all?
Well, the answer is that tireless artist we were just talking about, an artist that has been working for millennia, nonstop. And its favorite tool, the one it uses to carve and shape and build, is the simple, incredibly powerful wave. So let's get into what a wave actually is. It isn't just a blob of moving water. No, it's pure energy, transferred from the wind, traveling across the sea. And believe it or not, it is the single most powerful force of coastal erosion. It's the chisel in our artist's hand.
All right, so if the wave is the chisel, how exactly does this artist use it? Let's take a look at the very specific techniques it uses to literally carve the land.
The wave's power really comes down to four main moves. First up, you've got hydraulic action. Just picture a power washer on steroids, water being forced into every little crack in the rock, blasting it apart from the inside. Then there's corrosion, where the wave picks up sand and pebbles and uses them like sandpaper, just grinding away at the cliffs. Attrition is when those sandpaper tools sharpen themselves, pebbles and boulders smashing into each other, becoming smaller and rounder. And finally, there's solution. This is the subtle one, where the seawater itself just dissolves certain rocks like limestone and chalk over time.
So with these four techniques, the ocean can create some absolute masterpieces of erosion. Let's actually follow the entire journey of one of its most famous works, the incredible transformation of a solid headland into a tiny stump.
You know, every sculpture has to start with a block of raw material. In this case, that material is a headland, this big, tough chunk of hard rock that juts out from the coast, almost like it's daring the sea to take a shot.
And the first cut is made. Using hydraulic action and corrosion, those waves hammer away at the base of the cliff, zoning in on any little weakness or fracture. Over thousands of years, they carve out a hole, and a coastal cave is born.
But our artist is just getting started. The waves keep on working, sometimes attacking from both sides of the headland at once, and eventually two caves can meet right in the middle, boring a hole straight through the rock until you can see daylight. That's how you get a magnificent natural arch, like the famous Durdle Door in England.
Now, an arch, as beautiful as it is really just a temporary phase. The same forces that made it keep weakening it. The wind, the rain, the waves, until one day, the roof just collapses into the sea. And what's left behind? A dramatic, isolated pillar of rock called a stack. You've probably seen pictures of the famous 12 apostles in Australia. That's exactly what we're talking about.
And the process still isn't over. That lonely stack stands there, taking a beating from the waves day in and day out. And it too gets worn down, bit by bit. Eventually, it's eroded so much that it's just a little nub of rock, sometimes barely even visible at high tide. This is the stump, the last remnant of that once mighty headland.
But hold on. What about all that destruction? All those fragments of rock? All that sand? It doesn't just vanish. See, the ocean isn't just an artist of destruction. It's also a master builder, and it uses all those leftover scraps to create something entirely new. And this really gets to the heart of it. Nothing is wasted in this cycle. The very same material that was just carved out of a massive cliff is now the building block for the next landscape.
So what does it build with these scraps? Well, the most obvious one is beaches, right? All that sand and gravel has to go somewhere. But it also creates spits, which are like these long, sandy fingers that point out into the sea. It forms bars, which are ridges that run parallel to the coast and can create beautiful lagoons behind them. And the wind even gets in on the action, blowing sand inland to create marine dunes.
Okay, so we've got these processes of carving and building happening all the time. When you put all of that together over huge geological timescales, you start to get different styles of coastline. So let's take a quick tour of the ocean's finished art gallery. At the most basic level, the overall shape of a coastline really comes down to one big question. Has the sea level risen compared to the land, or has the land risen compared to the sea? That simple dynamic gives us our two main categories.
First up, you have coastlines of submergence. This is what happens when the land sinks or the sea rises, which floods coastal areas that used to be dry. This single process creates an amazing variety of coastlines,
like the Ria, Fjord, Dalmatian, and estuarian types.
Now, let's just quickly compare rias and fjords because they can look kinda similar, but their backstories are totally different. A ria is a drowned river valley. Think of a river mouth that got flooded by the sea. They make for great natural harbors. A fjord, on the other hand, is a drowned glacial valley. It was carved by a massive glacier, not a river, which is why fjords are so much steeper and way, way deeper. Think of the incredible coasts of Norway.
Now, on the flip side, you have coastlines of emergence. This is what happens when the land itself gets pushed up. So if a flat piece of the continental shelf gets raised out of the water, you end up with a very gentle, sloping lowland coast. But if a whole block of land gets pushed up because of an earthquake or faulting, you get a dramatic emergent upland coast with super steep cliffs.
So for all the incredible, mind-boggling variety we see in the world's coastlines, every single cove, every bay, every cliff, it all boils down to just these two fundamental processes: submergence or emergence. The sea rising or the land rising. That's it.
So the next time you find yourself at the seaside, remember this. You're not just looking at a pretty view. You're standing in a dynamic gallery, a living museum of geological time. Every single thing you see, from a tiny cave to a huge beach, tells an epic story of creation and destruction, written by the relentless work of the waves.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. The artist never stops working. The gallery is always changing. Which makes you wonder,